Hello everybody, thanks for joining me again. Today we're going to take a look at Endless Series by Oli Larkin. So this is a relatively old plugin and it's not very pretty, it's a bit XP-like, but it's an extremely powerful plugin. It might seem at first a bit like, what am I really going to do with this thing? But trust me, for Psytrance this thing is the bomb, basically. So what it is a Shepard tone generator. Well, it's not just a generator, but to start with, let's look at it as a Shepard tone generator. So let's just turn this one on and have a look at it. If you don't know what Shepard tones are, you'll probably get the idea of it from this video. If not, go and look them up. They're also called Risset tones. So yeah. Okay, so essentially what it's doing is it's generating sine waves, and as each one travels up along the spectrum, when it gets to a certain point, it then goes back to the beginning, and it kind of just gives this illusion that the pitch is rising or falling, depending on how you have it set up, but actually the frequencies used, the range of frequencies used never actually changes. So this can be a really, really cool effect, and it's used in film and things like that quite a lot. We can use this raw like this if we want, but there's a number of really cool tricks we can do with this. So to start with, here's a clip of audio, and quite a few of these sounds were made using something from Endless Series. Okay, so you get the picture. So to attain these types of textures and things, such as this, or this, we need to understand a bit about how to use Endless Series. So let's go and open Endless Series again. Okay, so we've got a bunch of options here. So if I just turn it on so you can hear what's going on, and probably make it a little bit quieter too. Okay, so we can control where in the frequency spectrum this is happening. And you can, of course, automate this or record yourself noodling around with this, whatever you like. I tend to put it up around about 80-ish, because it's sort of in the range where I want these types of sounds to happen. Okay, and then we also have a range, so how close each sine is to each other. So already you can probably see that the range of possibilities is really endless. Okay, we've got a rate amount. And I'd say it can be really, really satisfying just to look at the spectrum analyzer whilst playing with it. Okay, so we also have this shape knob, which kind of turns it into a more narrow band. Kind of like steeper bandpass if you like. I tend to just leave this open for my needs. Then we also have spread and detune. So to use these, you'll need to have it on the dual stereo mode. If you have it on single, it'll just be mono. Dual will be stereo. It can be quite cool. So you can have different point in the left and right ear, but I'm just going to leave these down for now. Okay, so we can also choose the amount of partials that we have. So we've got from 5 up until 20, and they all have different sort of sound to them. Obviously 20 being much more complex sort of sound, and 5 just being less so. Okay, and we can also choose which direction it goes. Okay, so for atmospheric type stuff, I really quite like having it on the higher number of partials, maybe 20 partials, have a bit of movement in it, record that out. So let's just record this. Okay, and then what I want to try and do is find kind of the loop point in the Shepard tone. It's about here-ish, I think. So that's not perfect, but for now, that's close enough. So let's take this part and just consolidate it, and then get serum. And here I've just got a serum with a ton of delay and reverb on it, and also a bandpass. And let's just drag our noise into, our Shepard tone into the noise oscillator. We don't need it to key track really. It's not necessary because it's totally atonal, so it's kind of a waste of time to have it key track. But if you want to have it key track, that's up to you. Okay, so now we should have which, if you ask me, is pretty cool effect. Okay, so we can make tons of different variations of this and make loads of different sort of atmospheric patches or whatever you want. So the next thing I really like to do with this, probably my favorite thing to do with this actually, is to make carriers for FM. So let's take our endless series and let's just set it to a low number of partials. Let's just go with 5 for now. Doesn't really matter how many you do, but let's go with that. And maybe just play around with the range a little bit and the rate. And to be honest, that will probably be fine. Let's just go with that. What's important is that it's a low number of partials. Okay, and let's record that. Now, we don't need to find the loop point on this part. All we really need to do is just take it and let's make it not too long, because it's not going to work that well if it's too long. So let's go with a quarter bar, consolidate that. It's very important that you do the consolidation, because otherwise this isn't going to work very well. Okay, and then you can chuck this straight into your wavetable synthesizer. My advice is use Vital, the free synth. If you haven't got it, use the link in the description. Chuck this into Vital like so, and you're going to want to use the pitch splice mode. So just drag your audio over onto here and go pitch splice. Just so you know, if you're a Windows user, you're not going to be able to do that. You need to save the audio outside of Ableton, I think, or maybe close the session and then find the audio. and then do this. Sorry, Windows users, but if you're a Mac user, you can just drag straight from here onto here. Okay, so now what we have is this. Kind of weird inharmonic bell type sound. Okay, so let's just get another oscillator, turn the level down, go FM from 2, and I'm going to choose basic shapes because I just want a sine wave, and let's see what happens. Oh look, those sort of bubbly tones. So these inharmonic tables are kind of the key to get those interesting timbres in your FM leads and other sounds for psytrance, especially used more in the darker stuff. I like it around there, and then if you like, you can just chuck filter on it. So something else Vital does really nicely as well is this spectral time skew, so we can get all these different flavors of FM. On this particular one, the variety isn't huge, but as you make more and more of these types of tables, you will find all kinds of strange textures and sort of kind of screamy or bubbly textures, such as this one. Okay, so what I quite like to do, if we go back to Vital, is just pop in here, export to WAV file, and let's call it Endless Tutorials. Okay, so now we can go and open this in Serum or, wherever else you might want to open it. So let's just go and grab a Serum. Okay, so here we have our wavetable. Okay, and let's use some FM with a sine. And there's usually a particular spot where it just sounds nice and gritty. And we can use different octaves if we want, some more screaming type of sound, or, just whatever sounds good to you. And then, of course, I like to use bandpass. Or we can just leave it naked. Maybe turn off this distortion. Okay, so you get the point. Alright, so that was atmospheres and FMs. So the possibilities are endless, but some other really, really cool things you can do with this is, you're not forced to just produce tones with it. Something else you can do with it is you can tell it to do an AM of a sine. So which sounds a bit different. And we can also tell it to do different AM on the left and the right, if we want. And we can get some really interesting tones out of that. Again, turn these into wavetables, or just record them to audio, warp them, do whatever you like to them. Okay, so yeah, that can be really, really cool. Again, all the other knobs still do what they did before. Okay, after AM sign we have AM input. So it'll go silent if you select that, and what you can do is just go and chuck any synth before it. I'm going to use Serum, and let's just take a sine wave, because obviously sine wave is the most basic waveform we can have. So, usually a sine wave will just be sort of humming tone. Oops, that's definitely not a sine wave. Okay, but if we put on endless series, we can affect our sine with this. So yeah, that's for you to experiment with. All kinds of possibilities there. After that, we have phaser, flanger, and a filter mode. Now, both these phaser and flanger modes are particularly sort of interesting effects. Of course, it is just a phaser and a flanger, but we get quite a lot of control over it. So let's take a sound. Let's just take a lead sound or something. Okay, so on its own, this sounds like this. But if we put on our phaser from our endless series, and down here we've got the number of stages in our phaser, so up to 24. So quite a nice sounding phaser, kind of unique because we get a bit more control than most phasers. Now we've got our flanger. All kinds of possibilities there. And then finally we just have this filter mode, which, as far as I understand it, basically just filters the input based on our signs and where they are. Now, beware, it does get quite aggressive on the volume sometimes, so watch your ears. Be sure to use limiters and things like that if you are going to have a play around with the filter modes, or just keep it quiet, up to you. But yeah, this is pretty interesting because, for example, we can choose exact areas in the, we can choose exact areas in the spectrum and only have the frequencies come through there. And then, for instance, we could take another sound and do the same thing again, but shift it along, and they can live side by side because they are not taking up the same space. can get rather loud and distort sometimes. Okay, so that is the basics. Let's just switch back over to tone mode just to show you last couple of things. So we can also add some of this noise modulation. So let's turn this back on. And this kind of just adds like jitter, if you like, to the signal. You can get kind of like liquidy effects out of it. Can be kind of interesting. Gives a cool readout on the graph as well. And we can also add harmonics to our sines. So yeah, really bizarre little plugin. If you like it, check it out in the link in the description. It does have a demo mode where you can pretty much use it like normal, apart from it goes silent every so often. But if you do like it, please consider buying it at Oli Larkin's site. And otherwise, guys, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time.